I think we should talk about, well, we should mention Prince, because it's like now, almost. It was this morning, no, last night. We're recording this on Friday night. Yeah, I mean, obviously Prince wouldn't be someone we'd ever mention, but really interesting character, because fantastic musician. Really cool guitarist as well, not in a muso way, just a cool guitarist like Hendrix or something, you know. I mean, that's so interesting that his songs didn't do anything for me at all. That's really interesting, I think, that he's a real muso, almost like a Zappa type character, really. And in the 80s, of course, compared to Michael Jackson, he's not really anything like Michael Jackson, other than that he was from the 80s, I suppose. What was your opinion of Prince?
It's a difficult one, because I know nothing Prince. Didn't particularly dislike him. On Savage, the songs didn't really pay any attention to, didn't really have any sort of desire to try and find out about, really. I just knew he existed in the world.
Yeah.
And it was one more baffling thing
in the world that what? We don't understand.
I understand, you know, there's a lot. I mean, when he changed his name from Prince to Symbol, whatever it was.
I forgot that.
Yeah. I mean, it just struck me as mildly ludicrous. And what's that got to do with music, really?
It's nothing at all. Yeah, I mean, that's publicity, whatever it is. So, I mean, the whole oeuvre he's in is something we don't get, isn't it? And that's...
Yeah.
Is it pop? I don't know if it is pop or not. It has pop in it. I don't know if it is actual pop. I'm more interested in him as a musician, obviously. He's really interesting. So, yeah. But, yeah, his songs just...
Apparently there's a whole vault of stuff. Released stuff that he's got.
Yeah, perhaps it'll turn out there's a 70s prog epic in there somewhere that he didn't want to release.
Yeah, might be.
So anyway, yes, another gem. Hemispheres, tight, cohesive compositions. Only this time we've actually got a side-long epic. But it's side-long, but it's just as long as the composition is. Because it's actually only 18 minutes something, which means they haven't just made a 20-minute thing of bits. They've written something and it's 18 minutes long. And it's naturally that long. You listen to it and it's not like, oh, there's another bit. It's very, very well written. I think what's significant about that is it takes a lot of effort to make big compositions like that properly. It's the old thing about that it's complacency. No, it isn't. It'd be complacent to say, yeah, we need a side-long epic. So I've got this bit here, put it with that bit there, and then we'll just have a folky bit in the middle. That's 20 minutes, there you go. Which is not what they've done. So like Thick as a Brick, not like We Can Fly From Here. But that epic piece doesn't, I don't think it has the bang of Book 1. This is Cygnus X1 Book 2. In that, obviously, there's a real whoa about the Book 1 that isn't on Book 2. But overall, I probably prefer it as a piece, but regardless of that, as an album, it's all brilliant. I think it's only 4 tracks, so it has to be really, doesn't it? But I think all of it's brilliant. There isn't anything I don't like. There's no boring. Well, that's got to be the single then. It is a case of, you know, them being under pressure, making good stuff. I think it's not as loved as the previous one. I think that the pressure they felt they were under and the hard work they had to put into it made my favourite Yes album. And you'll do that eventually. My favourite Rush album. We'll probably talk about that in a bit, why I would say that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very excited when I saw the first track, Cygnus X1 Book 2, because Cygnus X Book 1 was one of the best things I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was really, really surprised on the last album. And to be truthful, I struggled a little bit to get into this one. I put it on. It took me a few times to actually listen to it to get all the way through. It's not, as you say, it's not that as immediate.
Yeah,
definitely feels well crafted in the sense that it feels all tight and it feels like it should be.
Yeah, you've got themes that go in and out properly, not just that song is there and then there's a different song there.
And in that sense, if you were to judge, I mean, perhaps I was a little bit guilty of judging the last album basically on Book 1 because it had that wow factor. If I was to do the same on this album with Book 2, it probably wouldn't do it any favours, because there are some really good songs on here, and actually, Cygnus X, Book 2 for me isn't the best track on here, although it's perfectly good, perfectly listenable to. I've obviously put a lot of effort in there, And with these top tracks, it can be a case that because of the effort that's gone into it, it can take a little bit of effort to actually.
Yeah, it takes time.
Yeah.
It's not a first listen top.
Yeah, but there are songs on here or tracks on here that are immediately, whoa.
Yeah,
those are really good. And actually, again, I said this on last time that side 2 was, in my opinion, better than side 1. Again, I'm in that position where actually side 2.
I'm inclined to agree sort of in that I think it's all as good as each other. It's not like, a side-long epic usually means that it completely dominates the album. It doesn't here. It's all as good as that, I think. I think this is, but I like it a lot.
I think maybe with Book 1, I appreciated the disparity between the two levels that are on there. The high points to the low points are really impactful, whereas with Book 2, it seems to be quite...
Yes, that's the thing. It doesn't have the punch of Book 1.
And maybe there's a little bit of residual disappointment there, which is sort of giving me a bit of a bad vibe about that. But I have to say, sort of like the trees and La Villa Strange.
Yeah, Strangiato, I don't know, but it's I think it's subtitle An Exercise in Self-Indulgence.
Yeah, good self-indulgence.
Yeah.
It
is sort of a concept album in a good way. In that there's the idea of some sort of conflict, some sort of clashing of ideas principle on there, which obviously is an obvious thing to do with the type of music. Thankfully, there's no War and Peace sidelong epic, but that's just it, isn't it? Is it actually? I mean, we've said they're kind of Yes meets Zeppelin. Is it actually Relayer the band? So is the album Relayer? Did that invent Yes? Did that invent Rush? Is a good question, but maybe that's unfair. Because there is a Rush thing that is not Yes, I think. It sounds like Rush. If Rush at this time were playing Gates of Delirium, it would have been very good. Or bits of it would have been better than the original. Soon would, John Anderson's thing wouldn't be as good as that, of course. And Steve Howe's what he is, but they're really good at that. The unison guitar and bass thing, isn't it? That's just fantastic.
Yeah, they get an awful lot out of that, don't they? Considering they're like 3-piece.
Yeah.
They get so much out of it.
But that's the thing. A lot of it is about the playing, and that's controversial, isn't it? It's the age-old question of what's in the performance. Is it the classical thing where the composer decides and the musicians just have to perform what I've said, it's mine. So the composer is the one, or the jazz thing where the composer just thinks of a theme and then the musicians do what they do, and it's what the musicians do is the thing, really. And that obviously leads to the not playing with feeling nonsense and all that stuff, and obviously they were never going to be liked by those people anyway, so it doesn't matter, does it really? And I'm obviously very much of the playing is a thing people.
Yeah, I get. Yeah, but I'm not one of those. Well,
not normally, no.
No, yeah. I get a little bit tired when I hear a piece of music which is done there, so that feels like it's been constructed in such a way that it sounds good when like the drummers doing it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But that's what track 4 is, isn't it? It's just really good.
But it's cohesive and it sounds like a piece of, you never get the overwhelming sense, this is constructed like this or this is written like this, just so they sound fantastic and we can all appreciate
great musicians.
What great musicians they are. So as long as the composition is not sacrificed for what feels like a musician's ego almost, it doesn't matter. But when it feels like, okay, we're going to go on and we're going to do something amazing now, it's like putting drum solos on an album. I mean, they're really...
But I think really that only occurs when you have a solo and the band carry on playing the riff with nothing happening and the guitarist goes, but it has nothing to do with the rest of the music. But that's an 80s thing, isn't it, really? That's a Van Halen, maybe. It's harsher than Van Halen, but the ones he influenced kind of thing, rather than being a prog thing. So the band members talk about this as the stress. It's recorded in Wales again. So that was a factor in them doing the change, because it was hard work. To construct something like this is not easy, and they can make more money by making short songs. They must have thought, and it's not as loved as the previous one, or the previous two, actually. I think it's better, but I get the impression Farewell to Kings is more loved, actually. And it wasn't as successful either, which is a big one. there was a bit of a dip, and they must have thought, if there's a dip there, if you carry on in that direction, it's going to go like that anyway, isn't it? So you can understand the move to shorter songs with the next album, Permanent Waves. But the songs are still 5 minutes on the next one, which is metal song length, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So, I've said this in the last 2 videos, that they didn't really change that much. And from that to Permanent Waves and Moving Pictures, that's true. However, I hadn't heard a lot of stuff, and I've watched the last night. I don't know why we didn't watch it before. The documentary, the big documentary was on at the cinema, and yeah, they did do they went proper 80s horrible synths instead of Geddy Lee stopped playing the bass and played keyboards instead, and everybody hated it except for Neil Peart and Geddy Lee. Everybody hated it. Alex Lifeson didn't like it either. It's Lifeson, not Lifeson. Lifeson. But yeah, the movie's really good. I really recommend it. It's really strange because they've got footage of everything. You know how bands, the footage just isn't there, so that you construct things, and they have this, and you realise that the whole film is all the footage is from one concert because it's the only one. They've got footage of Alex Lifeson at home saying to his parents, "No, I want to go into Music Man," and they're saying, "Go to university." They've got multi-camera footage of that. How does that work? and you think maybe it's actors, but it's not. It's them. It doesn't make any sense. And although I think because of the way Canada was at the time, their touring circuit, because they were young, they couldn't go into bars. They couldn't play bars, so they played school dances. And schools would film the school dances. So consequently, they've got really good footage. And it's pretty good of the really, really early live stuff. And it's really strange that they're so good so early on as well. There's not that much difference. There is in composition, but not in playing, which is really interesting. Different drummer though. Yeah. Cygnus X1. So Cygnus X1 was about a black hole, wasn't it? Journey to a black hole, sci-fi thing. But book 2 is about the battle between Greek gods, heart and mind or something. Yeah. So what that has to do with the black hole, I think, it's the idea is that the sci-fi people travelled to the black hole and went into another dimension where this is happening. And Cygnus is what the captain of the ship maybe he becomes Cygnus, and he's the god of balance and brings balance to the Force.
Star Wars.
Yeah, I think so.
At the right time as well, isn't it? It's 1978.
I'll tell you what, the epilogue is very yes, really, really yes. The last moment, it's only 1 minute. That's a very, very yes thing to have a little acoustic thing at the end. Very Steve Howe, very John Anderson. But then again, isn't it kind of very yes, later yes? So is it the other way around actually? There's a lot of this stuff I think, yes, we're influenced by Rush. Circumstances we should talk about, because from the title, it's 3 minutes 40, I thought Closer to the Heart too. Yeah. And it's not. It sounds like Nawabum type music to me. Like maybe Diamond Head, maybe not Diamond Head, maybe Angel Witch, or I can't remember which band, but that kind of thing. And also the sound of the album I really like. It's very, very chamber. It's in a room. I really like that. It's just before, we're in 1978, so just before they started turning up the reverb and turning up the treble. So that's cool. And The Trees is really good as well. For me, it's The Trees is the one I'm least excited about, but still really like.
I do like it. I mean, the lyrics are interesting. They're simple, but effective. I think obviously Neil Peart's a really good.
Yeah. Well, he's a proper literary person, and he was a proper bookworm, Fripp-style bookworm. Of course, Fripp never wrote lyrics, and I think that really helps.
Yeah.
And in a prog context, which is such a problem traditionally, it's good. And it's a subject that that isn't usually dealt with.
Yeah, it's hard to do something like that on a rock album.
Very unhippie.
Yeah. And
I'm assuming that there's an element of that they're talking about these two different conflicting ideas, but I'm assuming, given the Ayn Rand association, I'm assuming that they're on one side of that. Don't you? That's very interesting because it's kind of very rare that they're in that position. But yeah, the Villa Strangiato. Bloody hell. It's just fantastic. And
it is, yeah.
They really tried to do it in one take, and in the end they had to give up and do it in 3 parts.
Well, I heard they had to. It took longer to record that than
the second album. Yeah,
the second album.
Because they were really trying to do it in one take. But I don't understand why they didn't do charts. So in Zappa's band, they had to have charts. It was impossible otherwise. But obviously from Rush, they learn it and they play it, which is where Dream Theater get it from as well. But if all they had to do was do a chart, and then they know where they were, and then they practice it, and they'll be able to do it. So don't know why that was not a thing that they would do. Who knows? It's kind of a fusion thing because it's a playing thing, but it's not jazz. It's metal. So you place the fusion with metal, but it's like that. It is a playing thing. So not only did they invent Dream Theater, but they invented liquid tension experiment as well. That's good. I'm still most impressed by the drumming, and I think he kind of invented a style there, which is hugely, hugely influential. You could go back to Carl Palmer as well, I think. The guy's obviously extremely focused and dedicated to being really precise, bombastic. Apparently not a great timekeeper. He's that kind of thing, and it became the Mike Portnoy thing and all that stuff. Yeah, so it's like the precision and the busyness. So Phil Collins is busy and Bill Bruford, but they're not like this, because this is much heavier. The precision makes it heavier, and really, in some ways, it's comparable to it's the drumming version of the guitar thing that happened on the Black Album on White Snake 1987. Brr, and then it's all about making it bigger and brr, but this is good. Whereas the other thing, it is good, but it's been done to death and it's boring. And obviously, because the guitar and bass are much more 70s, they're very, very 70s, and the vocals are very, very 70s. That's great. Alex Lifeson, he's got that balance between really sounding like Steve Howe, a lot like Steve Howe, in his phrasing of things and stuff, but with a much more straightforward guitar as well. So on the one hand, you've got like the intro to Farewell to Kings. That just sounds like Steve Howe. It's really close. But then the next album, you've got Spirit of Radio, and the sort of wah guitar solo is much more stock, is the word, isn't it? It sounds like stock. And that's great. So yeah, the reason I'm going on a bit about that is because I think, at the start, we both said...
Neo-prog,
and it's strange how I should really like Yes. Sorry again. I should really like Rush, but I've never... It's good, but I think I've been converted, actually. These two albums, and I've got the thing, I'm going to go and collect all the albums now, one a month kind of thing, and I think I've been converted. It's because they're really good. Well, originally I bought Exit Stage Left, the live album from 81, something like that. The reason I bought that was because they had it in Our Price. If anyone knows British shops, Our Price was a really crappy record store, and that I didn't like it at all, because it was a dodgy 80s live album. And then I got 2112 and Permanent Wave, so I've had those for 10, 15 years. And I knew they were good and they were there, and it never, But and yet I knew, I'd heard these albums, I had listened to them, but I think having to review them sort of forced the point. And so I think I've been converted, which is great.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been quite surprised and impressed by what I've heard. People have always said to me, you should listen to Rush, Sam. And for some reason I've just gone, yeah, maybe. And maybe I should have done.
Yeah. Turns out, or at least these two albums, not 212, I think Farewell to Kings and this one particularly. Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing Caress of Steel and Fly By Night, second and third albums, which I've never heard.
So yeah, it's been an interesting little journey.
Yeah. So yeah, it's 5 eggs easily for me. That's definitely a 5 egg album for me. Like I like that as much as I like Raven That Refuses to Sing.
Really?
Good? Yeah.
Ooh, I don't know about that much. I'm probably a little bit sad for that.
It does have nudity on the front again. The Naked Man.
Well, I think they could have had better album covers.
Yeah, and I think the problem is because it's got a naked man on it. You see the brain. You glance at the brain. You think it's naked bodies.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, unnecessary.
I'm going to give it 4 eggs because I actually prefer the last album.
I think most people do.
Yeah, but it's still a great album. It's a shame we haven't got a more finely tuned rating system.
Yes, it's 4 or 5 eggs for everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Unless we don't like it, and then it's 3.
Yeah.
And if it's amazing, then it's 6.
Yeah. Rush, Hemispheres.
Yeah, so we definitely recommend Rush, or at least those 2 albums, if you haven't heard them. If you only heard 212, go for these 2 albums. Maybe Farewell to Kings first, maybe. So we'll see you next week for